should be. It's on.
There we go. Okay. Confirming. Okay. Councilor Rell, if you can lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Dolores?
Counselor Hemmon. Here. Counselor Hurley.
Here.
Counselor Kotkin.
Here.
Thank you. Counselor Manusos.
Here.
Counselor Martino.
Here.
Counselor Rell.
Here.
Counselor Roberts. Here. Deputy Mayor Berry.
Here.
And Mayor Montanari.
Here.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dolores. Our first item on the agenda this evening is a presentation by the Weathersfield Village Association Improvement. The Lenoci family is here this evening. We had a event about a month ago at the Country Club for Salute to Business, and the Lenoci family was unable to be there, and we wanted to make sure that we paid appropriate respect to their success. And Rob Gary is here to make a brief presentation. Thank you, Rob.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And it's my fault you weren't at the chamber event, so I apologize. Every year, the Weathersfield Village Improvement Association presents an award, Salute to Business Award for business beautification for a business who's done significant improvements to their physical plant. So this is the plaque that we present every year to the award recipient. This is made from wood from the great elm tree, so we're very proud of this plaque. And we had decided this year to present it to the owners of the Amadon building, which is the Lenoci family. And the Amadon building is the building at the corner of Hartford Avenue and Main Street. And we refer to it as the Amadon building because it was built by John Amadon in 1885. And it was actually a corner store. And at that time, in trolley suburbs, which we were, people were building corner stores where the trolley stopped. And it was also the location of the first telephone in Weathersfield outside of the prison. So it was an important location at the time because it was a location where people got their news about local, more than local events. So it's a building that's, while a very prominent structure, it was always very tired looking and you kind of didn't notice it. And the Lenoci family has done a lot of work to the building and intends to do a lot more work to the building. So even though the project wasn't completed, we did feel that we should present it to them. So Mr. Lenoci, if you'd like to accept the award.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Hey, not getting that one back, right, Bill? Rob, thank you for doing that. I appreciate it. And I encourage any of our residents to take a look at that building and the wonderful work they've done down there and to renovate it. Our next item on the agenda is the swearing in of our Charter Revision Commission. Dolores will handle that, but I want to just share from the council point of view, every 10 years this Charter Revision process is initiated. It basically gives us an opportunity as a community to take a look at our founding document, which guides us through much of our governance. A 10-year process that I think allows us to be sure that the language within the charter itself, as well as the overriding tone and tenor of it, is visited by residents in town who have an awareness and an appreciation. We have a very solid volunteer group has been appointed to this commission, which will be sworn in shortly by Dolores. But I thank them not only for the work that they're about to do, for their previous service to the community. You'll see each and every one of them has served our community in a range of services over the last 30 years. And it's a talented group, a group that brings a lot of experience. The task ahead, I think they're more than qualified to handle, and I suspect at the completion of the process within the year, they'll deliver back to the community their recommendations to this council. So I thank them in advance for that effort. And Dolores, turn it to you.
Okay, thank you. May I see the Charter Revision Commission, if you come up? Chief Knapp, Chief McCullough, Mr. Kerr, Mary Paul-Chair, yeah, Bruce Rowley, and Mike Zaleski. Dan Snowball will be coming a little later. Do you solemnly swear to support the Constitution of the United States and that of the state of Connecticut to the best of your abilities as a member of the Charter Revision Commission for the town of Weathersfield? So help you God. Thank you. Congratulations. Attorney Forsythe will meet with you in the other room if you'd like to go. And if you want to.
Thank you very much.
You're in trouble already. The attorney's taking him in the other room.
Yeah. Next on our agenda this evening is a presentation by the Central Connecticut Health District and their annual report. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Judy Sartucci. I am chairman of the Board of Health for the Central Connecticut Health District, and we're very pleased to be here this evening to present, and thank you very much for your time. I think most of you know our Director of Health, Paul Hutchin. I'd also like to introduce Nancy Brault, who is our Chief of Environmental Health Services, and also with us tonight is Dr. Diane Dute, who's your one of 3 representatives on the Board of Health. Okay, at your desk, you should have a copy of our annual report from the Health District. For those people that might be watching at home, if this is being recorded, this can be seen and downloaded from our website at www.ccthd.org. Sorry. Okay. How's that? Is that a little better? Thank you. Sorry about Sam.
Thanks, Judy.
Thank you. Always getting used to the different audios, visual here. Okay. Are we up there? Yeah. Okay. The presentation we're doing this evening is just a very quick summary of what you'll find in detail in your annual report. Okay, good, thank you. Okay, Frank, it's not moving.
So just do the side arrow.
Outside here.
Yep.
Thank you. Okay, Central Connecticut Health District is your local health department. We serve the towns of Berlin, Newington, Rocky Hill, and Weathersfield, and currently combined population of about 7,500 people. The Health District was originally formed in 1996 by the towns of Weathersfield and Rocky Hill. In 1978, Berlin became a member, and in 2006, Newington joined. We're currently one of 21 regional health departments in the state. We're in our 17th year of service to our communities, and we're one of the health districts and health departments that provides a broad range of public health services. Oversight for the district is by a 12-member Board of Health. It's made up of our Director of Health and 11 members appointed by the member towns based on the population of the towns. And as I said earlier, Dr. Diane Dute is your current representative. There are 2 vacancies currently on the board. We currently have 8 full-time employees and 3 part-time employees working out of 5 different offices. We have staff at each of the 4 town halls and then also at the Newington Senior and Disabled Center. In addition, we've been very fortunate for many, many years to have a very active network of professional and lay volunteers. We currently have over 50 people that help us on a regular basis with our flu clinics, with much of the screening programs that we do, prescription counseling, this type of thing. We've been very fortunate. This is a brief summary of our financials. We are audited annually, and again, a copy of our audit is available. We've been found to be satisfactory each year. Our revenues are just under $1 million. The town's contributions, which is on a per capita basis, makes up 44%. Currently, about a third of our revenue comes from grants. In addition, we generate program revenue mainly from the fees that we charge for the services that we provide, our restaurant inspection, wells, septic systems, and in addition, monies that we collect from insurance reimbursement and private pay in terms of our flu and pneumonia clinics. Our expenditures, as you can see, for an agency like ours, about 80% goes to salary and benefits, and the remainder to program operations and a small amount to contract out for services. 3 years ago, we implemented a strategic plan. We're just in our third year now. And these are the 5 broad goals that we established with objectives and outcomes under each for each year. First is promoting healthy, natural, and built environments that protect human health and safety. Second broad goal is developing and implementing health promotion initiatives that will support good health at each stage of life. Thirdly, ensuring internal readiness to anticipate, recognize, and respond to public health threats and emergencies. These are also include such things as outbreak of illness, environmental threats, as well as bioterrorism. Fourthly, we are working on improving and maintaining the quality of services that we provide. And lastly, strengthening our infrastructure, and this includes such areas as improving our IT capacity, developing and maintaining a well-trained workforce, looking at resources and such as headquarters and such. Okay, Paul is going to go through each of these 5 areas and just give you an idea of the different activities that we've been working on, and then we'll be glad to answer your questions.
Thank you, Judy. Again, my name is Paul Hutchin, Director of Health for the Central Connecticut Health District. Thank you for your time tonight for this presentation. And again, it's a quick overview of the materials that are in our annual report, so I would certainly encourage you to take a look at that. One area that is a significant area for the health district is the inspection and regulation of licensed facilities. So we have food service establishments, beauty salons, barber shops, nail salons, public pools, motels, etc. Over 700 of those types of facilities. Most of them are food establishments. And we conduct regular routine inspections, re-inspections, and complaint investigations. Not much activity in Weathersfield with regard to private wells and septic system, but if an individual does want to install a private well or build a new home with a septic or repair an existing septic, we issue the permits, make the inspections, and make sure the system meets all the code requirements. Another area that is quite a bit of involvement for our sanitarians is complaint investigations. We get a wide variety of complaints. This time of year, it might be a lack of heat complaint, a lot of housing code type issues, any landlord-tenant relationship, problems with the heat, electrical, plumbing, that type of thing will go out on. In the warmer weather, it might be related to mosquito breeding, rat infestations, that type of thing. How do we support good health at each stage of life? You heard Judy mention about our flu clinics. This is a program that we have been running since the district formed, and in Weathersfield many years before that. And all throughout that, we've had the support of the Weathersfield Rocky Hill Professional Nurses Association, without whom I'm not sure this would really happen. They volunteer their time. They are the folks that actually administer the vaccine. They help with the registration and so forth. This year we were able to administer all of the vaccine that we ordered, which was about 2,600 doses. We only have a few flu mist type vaccine available, maybe 8 or 9 of them at this point. So fortunately, everything we ordered we were able to sell, and it was a very successful year because of that. One of the things the nurses also do is if someone is not able to get out of their home or it's a really difficult task to come to our flu clinics, we actually send someone to their home, a volunteer, to provide a homebound flu shot. We work with the police departments to do car seat checks. It's critical that car seats are installed correctly. Not everyone follows the directions or knows how to do that. There are trained officers in the police department. We have a trained staff member that knows how to do this, and we will hold clinics from time to time to show folks how to properly install that chair. Senior health promotion, we have a grant from the North Central Area Agency on Aging for free dental screenings, and this is for seniors. We also have a pharmacist who volunteers his time to see residents, whereby you can bring your prescriptions and everything you're taking, put them down on a table, have them reviewed. Again, how are we supporting good health at every age? We have an asthma control program whereby we will actually visit your home and look for asthma triggers and help you and your family, particularly children, to avoid the hospital visit and try to reduce the impact of asthma. It's called the Putting on Airs program. We're looking for referrals. So through school nurses, physicians, and other practitioners, we will accept referrals, and there's no cost for us to provide this program, especially trained inspectors plus a healthcare provider will come to your home. Chronic disease prevention, one of our ongoing programs is this Achieve initiative, and this is a collaboration with representation from all 4 communities. Thanks, it's probably not going to help, but I'll take it. My head is in a vice. This Achieve initiative is addressing these areas of physical activity, nutrition, and tobacco control, and if we can make improvements in these areas and how people live their lives, we can ideally reduce and address chronic disease prevention. And it's a true collaboration with representation from all 4 communities. We had some recent monies that we received, and we've been able to offer some mini grants to some of our member towns to implement programs. I'm going to try it, but probably not. I wish it was just dry. That would be great. We do have on staff an emergency preparedness coordinator. We're responsible for ensuring that we have our own public health emergency response plan. Communicable disease reporting is handled by the district. All hazards response. We have about 400 volunteers who we have their contact information on. So in the event of a true emergency, a bioterrorist event or something like that, we'd call on those folks to come in and implement our plan. Yeah, okay. You heard Judy mention the flu clinics. We actually conduct those as drills, and we ask all of our volunteers to get some just-in-time training and proceed through this flu clinic as if it were a mini drill or preparedness drill, so that in the event if we had to do something in real time, we have some people that are trained that can take over that responsibility. We also, from time to time, are responding to emergencies, power outages, major storm events. And so Storm Sandy was an example. We make sure that restaurants aren't trying to operate without power, make sure that food is destroyed accordingly, etc. Judy, I think I might ask you to. Yeah, I'm sorry, but my.
He's got a chairman who's a nurse and another board member who's a doctor, so we've decided to just, let's give him a break tonight. Thank you, Paul. As I mentioned earlier, one of our main goals has been to improve and maintain the quality of service that we provide. And in public health, this is our definition of quality. It's the degree to which everything we do as a public health agency helps people be healthy or influences the conditions in which they can be healthy. And toward this end, besides the development and implementation of our strategic plan, we have a number of activities underway. One of our goals over the next couple of years is to become accredited as a local public health agency nationally. You folks are familiar, I'm sure, with the hospitals, with education, police departments, and others that have standards of accreditation that they meet. Public health has been a little bit late coming to this, but it was launched 2 years ago and is across the country. Our state health departments, our tribal health departments, such as the two that our two tribal councils in the state have, as well as our local health departments here in Connecticut, are all actively looking at accreditation. Pieces of this include implementation of a strategic plan. We also take a look at the kind of assessment that we do in the community. This past year, we published our 10th annual Community Health Report Card. We've moved toward more and more use of a science base for the kind of policy-making programs and practice that we carry out. We've begun quality improvement training for our director and for our staff. This past year, we had identified through the agency and then also through some of the work that had been done through the Early Childhood Collaborative here in Wethersfield, that we had a problem with the adequacy of prenatal care that women in our district's towns, all 4 of the towns, have been receiving. And this was quite an eye-opener for us. So we've have had a project underway that's been taking a look at some of the reasons behind this and taking a look also at some of the strategies that we can then begin to develop to assure that the women in our district who are pregnant receive adequate prenatal care. And as I mentioned, we're planning for national accreditation as a local public health agency. Fifth goal has been strengthening our agency's infrastructure, and this has included going more aggressively after new sources of revenues as well as grants. We just, for example, received a $25,000 grant from the National Association of City and County Health Officers that we'll be using to help us with accreditation readiness, and we'll be specifically focusing on our workforce, which, as we mentioned earlier, is an unusual workforce because it's not only our salaried employees, but it's a very large group of volunteers. And this is one of the areas nationally that they were interested in to see how we assessed and trained our workforce and how we did ongoing planning in that area. So we've just begun that project, and we're very excited about it because besides our staff and board, we also have many of our volunteers that will be involved with it and helping us with it. In terms of technology, Paul and Nancy have had some significant work underway in terms of digitalizing our operations. One of the new areas that we're looking at and we're hoping to get up relatively soon, Paul can give you a little bit more information on that, is the actual restaurant ratings and making restaurant ratings online available to the public. We're also in the process of upgrading and revising our website, as well as providing overall better public access to a website and our information. As I mentioned earlier, our workforce, we work very hard in terms of staff recruitment and development, including our board development and volunteer training. We also have had for the last 5 years, I believe it is, a student internship program with the universities in the area in terms of nursing and public health and some of the other health-related areas to give both undergraduate and graduate students an opportunity for practice as well as to work with us on specific projects. Our future, we have that I know a number of you are begun to participate in. We have a community health improvement planning process underway where we're taking a much more detailed look and a good assessment of the health needs within our community. And from that, we look to develop a community health improvement plan. We have the hospitals, social service agencies, representatives from each of our towns, and from a whole host of different organizations and from the community that are participating and assisting us with this. So we're hoping to put forward to our towns a good roadmap for where we need to be going to address the problems within our communities from a public health standpoint. We've begun the use of new data sets through our membership in the Connecticut Association of Directors of Health. They've developed what's called a Health Equity Index, which has given us one of the best measures we've seen and descriptions we've seen so far of where health problems, particularly our chronic disease problems, are occurring. We've begun looking at the use of new tools such as health impact assessments. A new website, as I mentioned, better public access to information, as I mentioned, in terms of the restaurant inspections, work on accreditation readiness, and then lastly, I think as most of you are aware now, Paul Hutchin will be retiring as our Director of Health as of January 31st, which will be a major change, good change for him, major change for us. Nancy Brawl has been appointed by the board as our interim Director of Health effective February 1st. So we'll be undertaking an executive search to bring a new Director of Health on board. Paul has been just great, in terms of his leadership here within the district and the towns. It's been, 32 years when we count his work with Town of Weathersfield as well as Director of our health district. So I've got a lot of change underway and hopefully a lot of newer and better services that we can provide to you folks. Lastly, just a reminder from our former Surgeon General, Dr. Everett Koop. Healthcare is vital to each of us some of the time, but public health is vital to all of us all of the time. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, we'll be glad to answer any questions.
Any questions from council? Judy, thank you for the
Great.
presentation. Oh, I'm sorry, Jeff, go ahead, I didn't see you.
Yeah.
Been gone so long.
I know. Just a couple of questions, and I think, Judy, you mentioned, you said you had a couple of openings on the board, and I think you referred to Diane as the Weathersfield representative.
Right, we have three we have three positions on the board that are appointed by the town of Weathersfield, and currently only one, Diane's position, is currently filled. You have two vacancies.
Oh.
And Mayor Montangeri and Diane and I met with him, and so you're aware of the situation.
Okay, I didn't realize we were down on that.
You were very well served by Dr. Grant Golub, whose 3-year term ended this past June. And then Dr. James Strito had actually another year in his term, but because of her family reasons, needed to step down a little early.
She needs
Yes,
the
Jeff.
microphone.
Yeah.
Okay, so we need to appoint 2 more folks to it, okay. And I was wondering also, just want to thank Paul for his years, both as Director of Health of Weathersfield and then subsequently, helping to lead the whole agency. And this may be perhaps more a question for the board, but could you talk a little bit about the process and maybe what your focus is and what your timetable is in terms of appointing new leadership?
I'm in the process of establishing an executive search committee. As I've been meeting with leadership of each of the towns, we've been looking for feedback and asking for some suggestions and recommendations. Our timetable is to have the position filled hopefully no later than August 1st. One of the realities that we're dealing with out there is that those of us that are of the early baby boomer generation are retiring, and 3 or 4 of our other large health districts in the past year and a half have already had directors of health retire and have been recruiting. And so we've been working and have been in contact with the chairs of those boards and with members of those boards that in terms of the process that they've gone through and what they've learned in terms of who's out there and such. We're really looking at the environment that we're in right now for public health. And it's been a very rapidly changing one, and hence a very rapidly changing role, as Paul can attest to. We need to move in a direction where we're going to be moving and working more closely with the hospitals, particularly with this whole environment of healthcare reform. Just as an example, not just our health district, but a number of them across the state have been concerned that the hospitals have an obligation to carry out a community health needs assessment, as do we, as we get ready for accreditation, as they conform with IRS regulations. And in this part of the state, we're not quite in sync yet. We've got some really nice models elsewhere where the hospitals and the health departments and health districts, multi-towns, have been working hand in glove. And for whatever reason, we haven't quite gotten there yet. So we need to really be looking at some leadership, in that area. Also, that just the nature of the public health problems that we're dealing with now, environmentally, in terms of ongoing concern about emerging and re-emerging infections, we're dealing really in a whole different environment than what we've had before. So again, we're looking at a slightly different set of skills for the future in terms of a new director coming in. So those are just some of the areas that we're exploring right now. And we certainly welcome any and all suggestions.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you very much. Appreciate
Paul,
your time.
thank you very much. It would be remiss if we didn't express our thanks, all of us who have served in town for many years, have known you. I think 82, is that when you started?
That's right, yeah.
That's a long time. A lot of restaurants have seen you come and go.
Yeah.
Visit, and always professional, and your presentations are always thorough and top drawer. We're going to miss you. We wish you
you.
well, of course.
Thank
We
you
hope you
very
get
much.
well. It's sort of irony that you're not feeling well as you present tonight. But Judy, thank you for coming, and pinch hitting, and Nancy, we wish you very good luck in the interim role.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming. Next up is public comment. Anybody interested in speaking in public comment this evening? Gus, what a surprise.
Good evening, Gus Colantonio, 16 Morrison Avenue. Yes, Mayor, I'm still here.
And glad to see you, Gus.
Thank you. Happy New Year. The town manager has stated at the last meeting that it's against the law to install a stop sign on Morrison Avenue. And I guess the only thing I have is probably because the police department has said so. But anyway, the police department has determined on May 21st, 2009, before the reconstruction of the sidewalk on the street, that a stop sign is not needed nor required on Morrison Avenue for the eastbound direction in the vicinity of Tifton. Let me quote the police report. The stop sign for the westbound traffic on Morrison Avenue at Orchard Street is necessary because of a sightline restriction when on Orchard Street. I found that when driving south on Orchard Street, it is difficult to see westbound cars because of a fence at 6 Orchard Street and the grade of the road on Morrison Avenue just west of Orchard Street, end quote. Subsequent to that, the measured sightline distance on Orchard was to be 290 feet. 290 feet. The report was prepared without checking the sightline from Tifton Road. As you know, the sight distance from Tifton was measured to be more than 265 feet the first time on February 12, 2010, after the report was prepared and before the reconstruction of the sidewalk. When I questioned the measured distance, the town took another measurement and found to be 232 feet. Notice that the report stated that you require a stop sign because of a sight distance of 290 feet, but do not require a stop sign for a distance of 232 feet, and it's in a downgrade. The stop sign is necessary because Morrison Avenue was shifted southerly at Tifton, reducing even more the sideline distance at this intersection. Tell me, how can a required stop sign be against the law on one street and not against the law on the next street, where the sideline is 344 feet on one direction and 970 feet on the other direction, and with half of the traffic that we have? Remember, Hillcrest Avenue meets all the town road standards, and Morrison Avenue does not meet many of the town road standards. Town personnel has taken all the measurement at this intersection, has wasted time and money, has shown that what we have here is inconsistent with good engineering principles, and yet refused to address the problem. Why spend the time to take these measurements, knowing all along it is against the law? So the town manager says to install a stop sign at this location. The stop sign on Hillcrest Avenue and the lack of a stop sign on Morrison Avenue in the easterly direction is the reason why the average daily traffic on Morrison Avenue is double than the average daily traffic on Hillcrest Avenue. I'm going to ask again, how long is it going to take to rectify a problem of inequality that has existed for many years? Remember now, Morrison Avenue never connected to Silas Dean before 1955. It was never meant to be a true street, but it is now, with many more cars than Hillcrest. Do you have any sense of responsibility and fairness for all the residents, and stop making decisions based on personal preferences? Thank you.
Thank you, Gus.
It will not be the last time.
Others wishing to speak? Mr. Young.
Good evening, Robert Young, 20 Copper Mill Road. I'd like to make a few comments about the last meeting, which seems like a long time ago. We talked about shared services, and I know Jerry Roberts is working on that. But I really believe that the finance department, between the finance department of the town side and the BOE side, should take precedence, because that's where that's a group that could be reduced. That's a group that we could really get a little savings out of. As far as IT goes, there's probably only 2 people on the town side, whereas on the town side for the finance, there's probably 4, I suspect. I honestly don't know how many, but maybe in total there's 4 and 4 on the board side and 4 on the town side. And we should reduce that to 6 or 5. But the thing that I want to say is that, that should be number 1 to go after. And it should have been already implemented. And, the town has their purchasing services through different agencies, Kelly, Robert Half. I think the Robert Half group, which specializes in accounting, could probably bring you in a very good accountant. Someone from the private sector, not the public sector, the private sector. Someone who comes in with a whole new set of eyes, and new thoughts of how to run this mini $85 million operation, because that's what it is. It's a small operation. Right now we're paying, we have a Susan Smith who's left, and whatever she was making. We have the person on the town side, on the board side, that's making 140, 145. Bring those 2 numbers together, you're probably looking at $250,000 just between those 2 individuals. And by reducing them and finding somebody through a Robert Half as a young accountant to come in, like I say, a CPA, someone who has the background. It doesn't have to necessarily work in municipal accounting, because these people with the CPAs are very able to move over into all kinds of areas and work very hard and do a very good job, come in with a whole new aspect. And you might find that him or her bringing in some more savings. And when you're talking about salaries, you would look at the normal, the highest paid person in the finance group as the worker bees go, and probably go $5,000 or $6,000 more for that manager. Because we're only talking an $85 million budget. And that's peanuts for these people. And I really think it's something to consider. Next, at the last meeting, or the meeting before, I recall you assigned or anointed David Drake for the position in the School Infrastructure Commission. And I made comment about that as well, that I thought that was a very poor choice. But that just goes on to show how people take someone who's done a poor job and give them another position up the ladder, another good appointment. I mean, this is the same area he's in right now that you appointed him, that problems existed before where information, and I think Tony even did some research on that and a report on that, where there was, what, a $1.2 million of overcharge to the state of Connecticut for work on school activities, or maybe there might have been a townside activity as well, but it was $1.2 million in error, and you got it, and somehow we ended up paying $682,000 or $683,000 back to the state of Connecticut. That's thanks to Mr. Drake, and you appointed him for another good term on a similar situation. I mean, I think that's pathetic that you would do such a thing, and you all knew he had done this. And he was the one that was in charge of the committee at that time. Next. Mr. Colantonio's been before you for a long time talking about this Morrison Avenue. I hope you will give him a stop sign. I ride around town, I see new stop signs. I see some red things on the, where the poles are, and now some red things that are reflectors. I mean, I'm sure you're spending money like there's no tomorrow on stop signs and that avenue. Put a sign. As he said tonight and he said before, and I've even said, Morrison Avenue is not a typical street. And he mentioned that tonight. And I've mentioned that it's not a standard street. It's a smaller street because of some poor engineering that happened a long time ago. And because of that smallness, the narrowness of that street, and it was really built to be like a cul-de-sac, and now it's a thoroughfare kind of a road, it really deserves some special consideration and something to slow the traffic down. Again, it's a heck of a lot narrower than my street and a lot of other people's streets, and it makes it a substandard road. And it should be given consideration and a stop sign to slow things down. Next, the last meeting. You spoke about the charter revision. And is my time up?
About a minute, Bob, if you could wrap up.
You spoke about the charter revision, and I'll be quick. And I was disappointed that you didn't name the names of the people. You said, well, we appointed a group of people, and then you just moved on. I mean, it would have been good just to sit back and hear the names instead of waiting until this week when the rare reminder came out, and there we saw their names. Thank you very much. You didn't say their names.
Yes, we did.
I think we
Every one of them?
Yes.
Well, I was sitting here, I don't recall hearing it, but I guess I'll have to go back and listen.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bob. Others wishing to speak? Mr. Root.
I think I'll take my hat off. I forgot to take it off.
God.
They say keeps energy inside you. George A. Rue, 956 Cloverdale Circle. I usually start things off on a cheery note, smart note. I want to be a little more serious tonight. But before I get to that, I want to say that our tree, of which the town owns a part and I ended up owning most of it, did go away through the efforts of the manager who forwarded a note that I wrote to CL&P, and they came and did a real good job. I still got to get rid of a stump, but the tree's gone, so I've not got a tree falling against my house. So it kind of shows if you push a little, you can make things happen. This council, I think, over the next months, will have an opportunity to be either a leader or a follower. And a leader or a follower in a country and in a state that really needs more effective leadership than our Congress and our other elected officials, all except you, obviously, really need to address. There was a little article in the Rare Reminder that really caught my attention, and it was, "Help bring fireworks back to Wethersfield." I said, gee, that sounds like a good idea. The lady spoke about being a young baby boomer. Well, I'm an old, I don't know, whatever it was, but it's a long time ago. I can remember growing up with fireworks. I can remember fireworks on a regular basis in town. On the 4th of July. The 4th of July, a holiday, the birthday of our country, we had fireworks. But as I got into this thing, what really got me off my duff was to help the chamber provide fireworks for the Memorial Day Parade. For the Memorial Day Parade. You've heard it all before. I've talked to this issue any one of a number of times. The Memorial Day Parade. A time where we're supposed to honor and respect those men of my generation and currently from Afghanistan and Iraq and all the Middle East. A lot of guys have given up their life. And we want to celebrate that with fireworks. Think about that. The money needed for this is some $15,000, and it's going to be raised, I guess, and I'll read an article from a few lines in the paper today. The $15,000 needed to put on the show. We're going to put on a show. The town, the community. And I'm not saying at this moment, I'll get to how I see the connection between our leadership and this private venture. But it's a show. But with Stacey Hodges as president of the Chamber of Commerce, it doesn't surprise me that that's coming to the surface. That doesn't surprise me whatsoever. The Chamber is fundraising got a boost from the Friends of the Wethersfield Library. Now, the Wethersfield Library is part of the town. And I thought it, in my judgment, was a lapse of good judgment on whoever controls this operation, that we would be involved in supporting fireworks for Memorial Day, a celebration. As I read this, I remember my own experience coming back from Washington back in 2012 when from the American group that went down and visited all the memorials down there, which was a very sobering experience. And it happened on Memorial Day, where the guy in the airplane says, the pilot, have a happy Memorial Day. I nearly threw up. Have a happy Memorial Day. And yet that tone seems to be creeping into our town, and it seems to be creeping into our town with the support of leadership. Seems. I could be wrong. You can argue with me all you want. It goes on to say, and this is the chairman of the Friends of the Library, the families really are having a good time. Having a good time. Now, some of you are old enough where you may have fathers, brothers, who never came back from the war. I was lucky I came back. But there were a lot that didn't. And it's been a thorn in my side in this town when I see the dancing girls and the good job for every old fire truck and police wagon that goes by on a day where we're honoring our dead. The Chamber of Commerce, and I have addressed this issue, I've raised questions on it in the past, and I think I've discussed it briefly with the manager at one time or another, about the Chamber of Commerce as a lobbying group in Washington, which I don't really agree with on most of the time. I think our chamber is probably part of that organization, one way or another. They do have office space in a town building, which I hope they're paying rent for, and I hope they're paying commercial rates. And as far as this event, if it materializes, whether it will or it won't, regardless of what I say. It may or may not go, I don't know. But I would urge this council, and I will be paying a little bit of attention to the fact, I would urge that not a nickel of support be provided to this group or any other group that wants to denigrate this very sacred holiday for the sake of fireworks and a picnic and having fun and letting them say, have a happy Memorial Day. And those funds not only mean dollars that you give them, is if you got to provide police protection if it flies, make them pay. If you have the option of not providing a license and maybe you haven't got that option, I don't know, make them pay. Because personally, as a veteran of World War II, and I'm a dying generation, ain't many of us left anymore, I would certainly urge that you provide the kind of leadership that you can do. You have leadership capability, you have influence in the town, and I really think that you really ought to try to exercise it in this regard. And with that, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, I leave that thought with you. Give it some serious thought. Thank you.
Others wishing to speak, public comment? Mr. Gary.
Robert Gary, 10 Morrison Avenue. I don't have any background on this issue. I just happened to read it on the agenda tonight that you're hiring a zoning enforcement officer or looking to do so. And I think it's a great idea, having served for a long time on the Historic District Commission, having a resource available to us both to work with homeowners and to enforce decisions of the commission has been critical to that commission's success. I'm surprised to see that there's a full-time zoning officer and then a part-time sidewalk inspector. I would hope that the zoning officer could look at the sidewalks all by himself. I think we have to be careful on how many resources we add. We recently added a head of physical services, and it was my opinion that 2 people to do actual work would have served us better than another manager. And I know Mr. Bridges knows, unfortunately, when spring comes, I'll be watching every weed grow around the building and pointing them out to him again. But that's my comment on that issue. Second, we're all entitled to our own opinions and what defines success or failure, but when I look at major building projects in this town, this building and the police department, which were, in my opinion, epic disasters of building projects, the 2 most successful building projects in this town were the Board of Education offices and the Silas Dean Middle School because of David Drake's hard work. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments? Seeing none? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Kind of embarrassed you don't know my name. I guess I should come more often. My name's Kyle McCormick. I'm 19 Buckland Road. I'm lived in Weathersfield for 5 years, and I'm excited to become more involved this year in some of these meetings and learning more about the town. For the last 5 years, I've kind of seen things improving in the town, encouraging more young people to move into the town. And I think it's going the right direction. So I'd encourage the new members and the old members to continue a direction where we bring more corporate into the town, where they can sort of help out with some of the taxes, to encourage more young people to move into the town close to Hartford. It's a great commutable distance. So I think there's a lot of opportunity here if we can reach out and grab more corporate businesses. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. McCormick.
Kyle and I spoke before coming down tonight. We happen to know each other socially. My name is Mike Kerr. I stood here once for a zoning appeal, and that's it. I'm from 553 Maple Street, and I'm very interested in getting involved in the town I live in, which I've now been a resident of for 4 years. And I really, I'm interested in a lot of different aspects in terms of development, economic, social, cultural. I hear the concerns of, sounds like some regulars here, and, well, I mean, getting involved is important, and supporting each other's ideas is important. But I think it's important also to have some fresh blood, some young blood, if you will. If I don't know if I quite qualify, but I'm close. And I hope to be one of those voices, along with my friend there, who might not agree politically. We're not even sure. But we probably look forward to the discourse over hopefully the next 4 years. And someday somebody will give a speech when we retire. So I just want to introduce myself, Mike Acker.
Thank you, Mike. Any other public comment? Thank you. Seeing none, I will move out to councilor reports. Councilor reports? Tony?
Just prior to this meeting, we had an infrastructure meeting. We had 2 items on the agenda. One was a request for some improvements at the Standage House, where we've gone back to staff asking for some more information before we move forward on that. And the second item on the agenda was the improvements to Main Street intersections. Staff gave us an overview of where things stand right now, and as soon as the grant money's received, which hopefully within the next month, then we'll be looking to set up public hearings to get the public involved in their comments on what we want to do with the intersections of Hartford Avenue and Main Street, State Street and Main Street, and Church Street and Main Street.
Thank you, Tony. I'm sure that'll be of tremendous interest, particularly in the district. Other council reports? Nothing else? Okay, council comments? Mike?
It was more of a question towards the mayor and the town manager on, we all moved our schedules around for the high school building committee in December, and then nothing came about, and I was wondering if there was a high level, something we could hear tonight, and then maybe have the building committee come back in, talk to us.
Yeah, I'll let you know.
Okay. Yeah, when the bids came in, there was a tremendous amount of scoping that had to be done with all the contractors. And given the holiday season and trying to work through roughly $40 million worth of improvements, with some of the bids came in higher. So they're trying to scope those and be comprehensive with vendors that, had a holiday season. So we're trying to put that together and have the building committee come back with the product.
Okay, thanks.
And to Mike, I know you're referring to a couple of scheduled meetings that we had tentatively out there, and then a couple of the bids were withdrawn in response to some concerns from the contractors, which were a couple that we were going to talk about as a group, so we had to kind of regroup. So we wanted to finish that process. I know we're going to circle back very quickly. The OG is working on that as we speak, so thank you for asking. Other comments? Other comments? Okay. Mr. Town Manager.
Just one thing on, I put a list on the dais this evening of the top 8 unpaid property tax parcel owners. The tax sale is scheduled for March 22nd. We're finalizing that process, and the first public notice publication will occur later this week, and that'll get that started. Now, once the notification takes place, there's several notices that goes to the property owners, last registered address, any type of mortgage holder, they get that information. Then the day of the actual sale, even if someone buys the property owner of record today has 6 months to make good on the taxes and redeem the property. So this, although the sale is set for March, there are ample opportunities for the current property owners to hold on to the property and move forward. These, again, are the top 8, add up to well over $500,000, and we'll continue that process as we go.
Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate that. Dolores, anything from the clerks?
No, we do not have anything.
Thank you. Under ordinance for resolutions, appointments, there are no appointments, and I believe former Mayor Hemmon has some resignations.
I have 2 resignations. Ellen Laramie from 65 Knott Street, who was on the library board from 2/23/13 to 6/30/16. And then I'll do the other one at the same time. On Zoning Board of Appeals, alternate, Paul J. LeBlanc from 215 Clearfield Road, 8/20/12 to 6/30/13, or 14, I'm sorry.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. We have no unfinished business. We're moving on to B3A, creation of the position of the zoning enforcement officer. Do we have a motion? Jeff?
Make a motion to create the position of zoning enforcement officer, property maintenance officer, and also creation of a engineering technician and part-time sidewalk inspector position.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Mr. Town Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. Before you this evening, you have two modifications to the current personnel design for the town. We currently have a sidewalk inspector that's full-time that acts as an engineering assistant. And also, when we upgraded the property maintenance responsibilities of the town and reorganized that, that person is doing the property maintenance as well, and their time is very, well, they've got a lot on their plate. So in the current year budget, we put in the budget for a zoning enforcement officer to help the building department who are working on the Creek Building, the high school project, a lot of big things that they need a pretty heavy attention to, in addition to helping the planning department monitor and make sure that the special uses and, as Mr. Gary said this evening, the Historic District Commission decisions all get enforced. So you've got a lot going on up there. So in looking at that and talking with the different departments, we thought it better use of time to create the position, to take the full-time sidewalk inspector position and make that part-time and just focus on sidewalks. And that way they're clear on their responsibilities and take care of sidewalks, and then move the zoning and the property maintenance position into one full-time position that also could provide some engineering support and support to the other departments. So that's kind of the thought process. It's a wash in terms of total number of employees and total dollars spent, but it creates a zoning enforcement officer position, which we've not had for some. The building inspector does that now. So we think it's a better use of resources and focuses kind of where we need the energy.
Thank you, Jeff. Questions for the town manager on this? Jeff?
Jeff, just to be clear, these changes were anticipated when the current year's budget was developed, so there's no positive or negative impact versus what we expected when we approved the budget back in May.
Correct. The difference is, rather than having a part-time GEO, which we put in the budget, we're actually just going to have a part-time sidewalk inspector. So same number of dollars, same number of people, so it's a wash.
Thank you.
Mike?
This might be a question for either Duncan or for Jeff. Have there been any claims against the town for any accidents on sidewalks, say, in the last 10 years?
Oh, in the last 2 months.
Okay.
They're not common, but they're not uncommon.
Okay. And one of the roles, or one of the duties of the part-time sidewalk inspector would be to obviously look at any hazards or dangers that public walkways provide for, or maybe keep us liable or have us liable for.
Absolutely. Actually, what this does is allows that person to refocus their efforts on that particular function. Because right now they're doing so many different things, it's hard to focus on sidewalks. So it takes this person and focuses them on sidewalks, which is, we think, where we need the energy.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Roll. Jeff, just a time frame on the new portion of that position. When do you expect to post? And
We'll post in probably next week sometime, and it'll probably take, and it's a rather unique skill set we're looking for. It'll take a couple months to get someone on board.
Okay.
And the current person doing the sidewalks, he's eligible to retire, but not in any hurry. So
he's going to stay on until
he'll
the
stay on.
transition's complete.
Yeah.
That's good.
Paul?
Go ahead, Dan.
Just a question. I think that it's important also to note, in looking at the sidewalk inspector position and the role that they serve, it really helps us with our property insurance, looking through KERMA. And if I remember correctly, we were in a very good place several years ago with the programs we had put in place through KERMA, so our rates were kept in a favorable position. because of that, and I know that we just haven't had the time to allot to that because of other things going on.
Yeah, thank you for that, Donna. That's accurate. I think
And-
that's an important point.
And it's a really good point, because as the system ages, it's gonna require that much more oversight on these sidewalks, so.
We have a motion and a second on the table. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff, for that presentation. We're moving on to B3A, award of a contract to Xerox Corporation. Have a motion? Thank you, Jeff.
Well, I'll make a motion to award a bid to Xerox Corporation for 5 years for the town's land record management system. Estimated cost to be $23,423 per year.
Have a second?
Second?
Thank you, Steve. Mr. Town Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. I'd ask Town Clerk Dolores Sassano to take you through this one.
Sure. This was a position, this is for land records recording, and this is what our basic function is in my office. We have the property records for of ownership for every parcel in town. We have used this company before. We have them now. And by charter, I was required to get 3 bids, which I have provided for you. We had a bid from IQS, which has been trying to get our business for a long time. But last year, we did 5,205 documents that were recorded, and they charged $5.95 a document. They do not include paper or bindings. If I use them, paper from Adkins and bindings would be $1.28 per document, which is an additional $6,600. So given what we used last year, we would have paid $37,635 for the service. We also went to New Vision, which has a monthly charge of $21.55, but it covers up to 5,000 documents. They, again, do not supply paper, and with what their pricing for per month and the paper of $6,600, again, they would be $32,522. Xerox has taken over ACS, which is what we had previously. They have maintained the $4.50 for each document that we record. It includes all the hardware, software, updates, archival paper, remote access to images. There will be a $2 charge for people to view or print the documents from their home if we go online. We, by state statute, are given $1 per copy, and Xerox would have the other $1 for offering the service. They would be sending us money monthly, and it would be e-recording compliant also. The things that we haven't done before, which we could have, but we didn't start yet, was to have all of our indexes online, and we go back to 1991 with that. And we could have any images that we have, which dated back to 2003, which is quite a good selection of documents to put up, so that people can access this, attorneys and title searchers, from their home or from any place else. And if they take a copy of it, they will pay as if they were in my office, and we will get the money. The other thing we have not done is e-recording. We're not doing that yet. It's where major corporations will send us their changes and transfers and everything they do, but we can't. The state is not set up yet to take conveyance taxes, so we cannot accept those. So rather than to start it when we are not ready statewide to do everything, we'll probably hold off on some of the e-recording, but there is no additional charge to use it, to utilize it on any of these 3 companies. I would recommend staying with Xerox. We don't have to have everything converted to another system, which is quite time-consuming and sometimes means you have two systems running parallel. So that's why I would ask you that you support the recommendation of going with Xerox for land records.
Thank you, Dolores, for that summary and the work in getting it prepared for us to be presented. Appreciate it. Questions for Dolores on this? Jeff?
Just a note that Dolores did present this to the Budget and Finance Committee at our last meeting, and we asked her to make some clarifications in terms of the how we compared the bids, which she did in the document that's in the agenda tonight. So thank you for doing that. And I believe I should have clarified that we're authorizing the town manager to sign a contract for this, which I did not make in my motion. So I just want to clarify that.
Thank you. Jerry?
No, that was it.
Okay, good. So we've amended the motion. We've got a second.
So can we just reread the motion so we
Yeah,
know
if you could,
what
Jeff.
we have?
Okay. Yeah. Hold on 1 second. Motion to award the bid to Xerox for 5 years at the same rate per document, which is $4.50, and to authorize the town manager to sign the contract with Xerox.
Thank you, Jeff. Can I get a second on that amendment?
Second.
Thank you, Steve. No further discussion. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you again. Thanks again,
Thank you.
Dolores. We have no ordinance, resolutions, appointments for introduction. Moving on to 6, Town Council regular meeting of December 16th, the approval of the minutes. Do you have a motion?
So moved?
Thank you. A second?
Second.
Thank you, Jeff. Any additions, changes, corrections?
One change, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, Mr.
Fifth paragraph, page 5, it states that I was at the Salute to Business on the 12th. I was out of state that day, so should be corrected to remove me as being there.
I tried to get you to chit, Tony, but what can I tell you?
Gotta be honest.
I'll correct it. Thank you. Any other changes? A motion and a second on the approval of minutes. All those in favor?
Aye.
Second. Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. We can move on to any other public comment. Anybody wishing to speak? Mr. Gus?
Gascol Antonio, 16 Morrison Avenue again. Did I hear it right that basically I've been here for 41 years, and if I cannot pay the taxes for whatever reason for a few years, you're going to go and sell my house? Is that what you guys did say? But anyway, that's surprised. I think it's sad. So if something happens to you and you cannot pay the taxes for a few years, the town comes and sell your house. But anyway, few meetings ago, after I complained or I questioned regarding the intersection of Walker Hill and Beverly, the town manager said that the sightline distance for that particular intersection was good only for 25 miles per hour. The posted speed on Walker Hill is 35. I was just wondering if anything is going to get done, or things have improved by whatever reason, or, if we're going to get an answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Gus. Mr. Clinch?
Jim Clinch, 903 Ridge Road. I just want to say Jerry Robertson, Michael Rell, and myself are members of the Memorial Day Parade Committee, and we know what Memorial Day Parade in the day is all about. When George got up and talked about this fireworks on Memorial Day, he asked me before the meeting, and I read a little article on the internet, and it didn't say anything about fireworks on Memorial Day, but I don't think so. I think it's a bad idea. Memorial Day is for veterans that have made the ultimate sacrifice, and there's no way that I did read that the Parks and Recreation Department, they were involved with this fundraising too, and so I hope the town council, they're the overseers of the Parks and Rec and the library board, and I hope they stifle that idea very quickly before it gets off the ground. Thank you.
Jim. Anyone else wishing to speak? Mr. Young?
Good evening again, Robert Young, 20 Copper Mill Road. I couldn't agree more with Mr. Clinch and Mr. Rue regarding the Memorial Day parade not having those fireworks. I think that's very poor, and I hope you go against it. Tonight, you were going to go into executive session to talk about the police retiree issue. Now, I recall, gee, it seemed like a year ago or so, those police people were up here talking about problems, and it seems like this is just a drag on, and it's just going on and on and on. And of course, the first thing that comes to my mind after that is, hey, how much were they really looking for, and how much is this costing the town of Weathersfield at this point? If this thing is dragging on and dragging on, obviously you have attorneys involved, and they have attorneys, and it's probably a very costly venture for the taxpayer. I hope you'll give us an accounting of that. I think we deserve that, since we've been hearing about that over time. Also, the last couple meetings ago, I spoke about the MDC and the water bills that were coming up, that I received, and I'm sure a lot of other people received water bills that were jumping up and jumping up. And I think it's a lot to be concerned about regarding these increases that we're seeing, because we notice now the electric company this week or so in the newspaper, they're talking about having an 18% increase, because they're fighting over the residential people and the people that run the generators for making electric. They're fighting over who's going to get the natural gas. And of course, the residential people are supposed to be getting that before the generator people get it. But then the generator people got to go buy expensive oil to run their generators or whatever they're doing. And in reading the whole thing, I understand there's plenty of gas right up to the west side of the Hudson River. But from the Hudson River on into New England, those pipelines haven't been updated. And this here just shows that those planners, those people who are in charge, have done a poor job by not having those pipes put in over the years. It's the same idea with the MDC. As they were going along throughout the years and they had problems, they should have taken care of those bad pipes and whatnot. Instead, they let everything go downhill. Same like the town of Weathersfield. When you have a building, a high school, few things go wrong, you continue to not do anything about fixing it, and then finally you say we need a general renovation of it, $75 million, please. This is not the way to run a town. This is not the way people run their businesses. You take care of things as you go along. If the natural gas company had done what they should have been doing over the years, we wouldn't be looking at this shortage coming up during this hard, cold time. And we wouldn't be looking at these increases in these dollars that they're looking for. Now, I just got a notice today from one of those companies that you can buy their service, buy electric from them. I forget what their name was, Power, Northern Power or something. And what it says is $7.99 for the first month. And we guarantee to be lower than CLMP going further on for the next 6 months. And we guarantee. That's, you know what the word of a salesman is worth? Here's more people out to make bucks, and they're going to guarantee. Their guarantee isn't worth 2 cents. And, the whole country is going this way. And this town is going that way. We have this thing called nepotism that's picking up in our town. Look, during this last election, we picked up one more nepotism person who won. You know, I mean, we're getting a good foothold of nepotism into this town, and we shouldn't be having that. Back in the 1200s, they fought against that, against the kings of England, to stop that, you know? But here, you know, I hope we noticed that Mr. Cockins, when his company name pops up to talk about your company, you get up and walk out. And that's what those other people should be doing too. They should be following you. You should be leading this to get rid of nepotism because you obviously understand what it's about. Thank you very much. Good night.
Thank you, Mr. Young. Anyone else wishing to speak? Mr. Rue?
George A. Road, 956 Cloverdale Circle. On a lighter note, Jeff, would this new sidewalk inspector be inspecting that section of sidewalk that starts at 956 Cloverdale Circle and heads westward to my neighbor, which is in very bad condition? Will that be part of his initial assignment?
It can be.
I
Well,
would like.
Well, he's on staff now. We can have him look
Oh,
at
you
it tomorrow.
should really take a look at it. I walked it over with my great-grandson recently, and I thought to myself, it's bad. And the other thing that doesn't help it is when the snowplow goes up, which is about a foot wider, or much wider than the sidewalk, you rip up all the turf on either side. So it's just a thought to kind of keep that in mind. Unless, of course, unless that sidewalk is gonna get fixed with the major project that you're gonna undertake on the pond. I'd be willing to wait for that because that's important.
Well, I think the sidewalk needs to be done.
Yeah, well, they both need to be done, regardless of whether you consider them blight or not. We do. And answer to Mike's question, you raised the question, were there any claims against the town on accidents? Yes, there was one. My wife sued the town. But because she fell on that blighted open space over a twig that hadn't been cut properly. And she hired a very good attorney, Brown, Penderis, and Smith. And what we learned from that is when you sue the town, you got a damn little chance of winning. So with the costs that are involved, because nobody's responsible, there's all kinds of ifs and buts and escape mechanisms that towns and arms of government have when they are lax in their duties. So yes, you did have that case. Well, the long and short of it was, we took the counselor's advice and said, the hell with it, you know, it wasn't that important, it wasn't gonna make life in that situation. But I just thought I'd share that thought with you, and I thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We'll see you next time.
Mr. Rue, thank you. Any other public comments? Can I get a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.